A man born into the dirt of a slave plantation ended up commanding an army that defeated the three greatest empires on Earth: Britain, Spain, and Napoleonic France. This is not a myth. This is the story of Toussaint Louverture, the man who turned a desperate slave revolt into the first successful revolution of its kind in human history.
To understand Toussaint, you have to understand the hell he was born into. In the mid-18th century, the French colony of Saint-Domingue, now known as Haiti, was the most profitable place on the planet. It was the sugar capital of the world, fueled by a system of slavery so brutal that the average life expectancy for an enslaved person arriving from Africa was less than 10 years. It was a machine designed to grind human lives into white gold.
In 1743, on the Breda plantation, François Dominique Toussaint was born. He was a small, thin child, often called the stick or the skinny one, but he had a mind that worked faster than anyone around him. Unlike most in his position, Toussaint learned to read and write. He studied the works of Enlightenment philosophers and the military tactics of Julius Caesar. He became a master of herbal medicine and a world-class horseman. By the time he was in his 30s, he had gained his freedom, but he remained on the plantation, managing the livestock and watching the world change.
The spark that lit the world on fire came in August 1791. For years, the tension between the enslaved population, the free people of color, and the white planters had been reaching a boiling point. At a secret ceremony in the woods of Bois Caïman, the drums began to beat. A massive, coordinated slave rebellion erupted, turning the northern plain of the island into a sea of fire.
Toussaint did not join immediately. He was nearly 50 years old, an old man by the standards of the time. He first ensured the safety of his family, and he even helped his former masters escape the carnage. But once his obligations were met, he rode into the rebel camps. He didn't come as a foot soldier, he came as a doctor and a strategist.
He quickly realized that a disorganized mob, no matter how angry, could not defeat professional European armies. He began to train his men in the art of war. He taught them how to move in silence, how to use the dense jungle to their advantage, and how to fight with the discipline of a Roman legion. It was during this time that he earned the name Louverture, meaning the opening. Some say it was because of his ability to find a gap in the enemy's lines. Others say it was because he had opened a door to a new future.
The geopolitical landscape was a nightmare. France was in the middle of its own revolution, and Britain and Spain were circling Saint-Domingue like sharks, hoping to snatch the wealthy colony for themselves. Toussaint played them all. He initially joined the Spanish to fight the French, but when the French Republic took the radical step of abolishing slavery in 1794, Toussaint shifted his allegiance in an instant. He turned his guns on the Spanish and the British, driving them back with a series of lightning strikes that left seasoned European generals baffled.
By the late 1790s, Toussaint was the de facto ruler of Saint-Domingue. He was a military genius who had never attended a formal academy, yet he outmaneuvered every general sent to stop him. He was a master of psychological warfare. He would often ride 40 or 50 miles in a single night, appearing at different outposts to convince his enemies that he was everywhere at once.
But Toussaint was more than a soldier. He was a statesman with a vision that was centuries ahead of its time. He dreamed of a Saint-Domingue that was free, prosperous, and multiracial. He invited the white planters who had fled the revolution to return and help rebuild the economy, provided they paid their workers. He understood that without a functioning economy, the new nation would be strangled by foreign powers.
In 1801, he took his boldest step yet. He drafted a constitution for the colony. It was a revolutionary document that abolished slavery forever and declared that all men, regardless of the color of their skin, were born free and equal. He named himself Governor General for life.
But back in France, the real Napoleon Bonaparte was not flattered. Napoleon saw Toussaint as a rebel and a threat to his dream of a French empire in the Americas.
He famously said that he would not leave an epaulette on the shoulders of a single black man in the colonies. In 1802, Napoleon dispatched his brother-in-law, General Leclerc, with the largest expeditionary force ever to leave France. Tens of thousands of veteran troops, the same men who had conquered Europe, arrived in the Caribbean with one goal: to crush Toussaint and restore slavery.
What followed was a war of absolute annihilation. Toussaint gave the order to burn the cities to the ground. If the French wanted the land, they would have to take it as a smoking ruin. He retreated into the mountains, drawing the French deeper into a landscape they didn't understand. The heat, the terrain, and yellow fever began to decimate the French ranks.
The resistance was heroic. At the Battle of Cretapiero, a small force of Toussaint's men held off a massive French siege for weeks. When they finally ran out of ammunition, they didn't surrender. They cut their way through the French lines and escaped into the night.
However, the weight of the French military machine began to take its toll. Toussaint's own generals, sensing the end was near, began to defect. Seeing the suffering of his people and hoping to negotiate a lasting peace, Toussaint agreed to a parley with the French. He was promised safety and the right to retire to his plantation.
It was a trap. In June 1802, during a meeting with General Brunet, Toussaint was seized, bound, and thrown onto a ship headed for France. As he stepped onto the deck, he looked back at the mountains of his home and issued a chilling prophecy. He said, "In taking me down, you have only cut the trunk of the tree of liberty. It will spring up again from the roots, for they are numerous and deep."
Toussaint was taken to Fort de Joux, a cold, damp prison high in the Jura Mountains near the Swiss border. Napoleon wanted him forgotten. He was denied a trial, kept in isolation, and given barely enough food to survive. The man who had commanded armies and governed an island was now shivering in a stone cell far from the Caribbean sun. On April 7, 1803, Toussaint Louverture died alone of pneumonia.
Napoleon thought that by removing the head, the body of the revolution would die. He was wrong. Toussaint's prophecy came true almost immediately. When the people of Saint-Domingue realized that the French intended to re-enslave them, the revolution exploded with a new, even more violent intensity. Led by Toussaint's former lieutenant, Jean-Jacques Dessalines, the Black armies unleashed a final, brutal campaign that drove the French into the sea. In 1804, Saint-Domingue became Haiti, the world's first independent Black republic. Napoleon's defeat was so total that he abandoned his plans for North America entirely, selling the Louisiana Territory to the United States for a pittance. The map of the modern world was drawn because of the resistance of the people Toussaint had trained. The legacy of Toussaint Louverture is complex. He was a man of contradictions, a former slave owner who became the champion of the enslaved, a man of peace who conducted a war of fire, and a leader who believed in liberty but ruled with an iron hand. But his genius is undeniable. He proved that the desire for freedom is more powerful than the most disciplined army in the world. He remains a symbol of defiance against oppression and a reminder that greatness can emerge from the darkest corners of history. Subscribe for more.